Howdy, folks. Well, you almost didn't have me. I'm sitting here and all of a sudden, power goes out. It's like yellow. So, whew, got that going. Hey, how y'all doing? I hope you're all well. So let me just give you a little idea of what I've been up to since I last talked to you. Sharon and I went from Mammoth to Tampa, Florida, then over to Orlando, Florida, and did that. Took 12 days. Didn't walk. Shot a heck of a lot. Great shooting. I just posted, in fact, my bird portfolio from Florida today, in case you want to check it out. Then we flew back home. I was home for 36 hours, and then today we drove 7 hours up, and I'm coming to you live from Klamath Falls, Oregon, where we're here for the Winter Bird Festival, doing workshops, taking people out shooting, and doing a keynote. So that's what I've been up to. I hope you've been having a great time out there shooting. So, good dog, hey, thanks for coming. Dennis, thanks for coming back. Tom, hey, thanks for taking the time to look at the bird portfolio. And hey, Harry. Hi, Harry. So it's great for you guys to come in. I appreciate you showing up. Right off the bat, I got something to talk about, kind of a current bugaboo I have. I'll bring in my prop, okay? Here's my prop. Now, my bugaboo is not the 105-14, which is a favorite lens of mine. I use it for lots of things. Shot bison up in Yellowstone with it. That was really cool. No, actually, it's this thing right here. It comes off. This thing right here, right here. Ooh, special effects, okay? The lens shade. What is it with photographers and lens shades? I mean, seriously. In a game where perception's reality is a big part of it all, how can photographers take and go out shooting with a lens shade like this? I don't get it, right? Did you want to just put this on your forehead? I mean, really, why do you have this like this? I say this because I went out shooting with photographers, a whole bunch of them, and they all had the shade like this. And it's like, really? Now, normally I say something, normally not polite. This time, I thought I'd save my pent-up rant for you guys. Aren't you lucky? So, let's talk about the lens shade for a moment. What the hell is this for? Okay, so in my book, this is really for two things. The most important thing is sex appeal. I mean, let's just go back to my 105-14. Look at that lens by itself, okay? Big, beefy, looks kind of cool. Put the shade on here. What do you got? You've got sexy. You've got sex appeal because this piece of carbon fiber right here, okay? That's what lens shades are for. Sex appeal, okay? Number two, they're so things can't go and hit your front element, okay? They're just a really simple, inexpensive protection for the front element. Now, a long, long time ago, I had a good friend of mine. He's out there shooting at the time the 500 f4, and he would carry his lens, the big 500 f4 over his shoulder like this, and it would be pointing up towards the sky. And it was precision bombing. Let me tell you, a robin flew by, it went right down that lens shade, hit that front element, mesola. It was perfect, okay? But, you know, if you're walking with your big lens, this keeps things from hitting the front element, like twigs and other things we walk through a forest, okay, or other things. So it's a really great protection. And what's it really meant for? I mean, why did lens shades or lens hoods? I'm old, so I call them a lens shade, okay? Because they're really meant to shade the front element, okay? For those who don't know what's happening, okay? Now, I have a filter on here. I'm going to talk about that in a second. David, you seem to have problems quite often, okay? And I'm not sure if there's a buffering with the stream. Hey, what can I tell you? A minute ago, I had no power. I appreciate seeing that there's a buffering problem with the stream. I'm just going to keep going forward, and hopefully it will catch up. But that's the way it is. So apologies. I'm on remote location. Like I said, had lost power just when I started up. Maybe that power hit the switch somehow, and it's just not working out there. Sorry about that. Anyway. So what's that shade for? Now the front element right here, let's see if I get a good halo from the light. Okay, there. See that reflection right now? Okay, that's because there's a light that's actually striking that front element. That light striking the front element, okay, in this case, I was actually taking pictures. It would be a backlit subject. I'm shooting basically right into, in this case, the sun. So I've got flare. If I were to take a photograph right this moment, what would happen is I would have two big problems with the flare. The first problem I'd have with the flare is I'd have a lowering of contrast in my photograph. Okay, and it can be very dramatic, very lowered contrast. Two, it gets flat. I lose my color. Okay, now those are two things that are kind of important. Now as I take this lens, okay, and I'm pointing it right at the light source, and I start to turn it, you can see how all of a sudden you can still see a little bit of blue right there. So that's lens flare as the light is glancing off this front element, okay, and that will be seen in the picture. Often that's what I call UFO, an unidentified flaring object. That's what the lens shade is for. As much as a lens shade can, okay, it's going to sit there and allow you to work. See that it's now gone. It was just there, flaring element was just there. It's now been removed because that light is striking the side of that shade instead of my front element. I see a lot of photographs from photographers that have a very low contrast. And they ask and they think it's a whole lot of different possible things. The main thing that's causing that low contrast to your picture is flare or flaring objects. Now, you might think of a direct light source, like the light that's lighting my face, as a big culprit. Where we live, if it was a normal winter, we'd have all this snow, and snow would be on the ground, right? All this white stuff would be on the ground. The light can come from anywhere, hit that snow, and bounce up into that front element, causing flare. Sand is another thing that can do the same thing. So that lens shade, while it's, you know, it's really there for cosmetics, okay, to make things sexy. There are points, and it has to do with physics, okay, and geometry as light hits and bounces up. The rule is real simple. Angle of incident equals angle reflection. And that's what could be causing that flare hitting the front element. So the shade, okay, if you're going to have the shade, turn it around. Don't look like a dork, okay? And remember, this is really important, okay? Now, let's see here. I hope the buffering problem is going away. I see people from the chat saying some are having problems, some are not. By the way, did you notice that the chat box isn't there tonight? Okay, I got that dealt with. Hey, I'm learning. At the same time, remember, subscribe, okay? Subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notifications from me. I'd be grateful. That'd be really cool, okay? Now, let's get back to the other thing I want to talk about, and that is the filter. Now, hey, Perry from Paris. Now, if you know Moose well enough, you know that Perry from Paris will mess with my mind. I love it, but I want to say Perry for the word Paris rather than your name. So, see my confusion? But hey, thanks for tuning in. That's cool. Anyway, I want to talk about the filter. I get lots of emails about filters. Now, some lenses, like the 800 and the 200 or 400, 600, 500, all those lenses, they have a built-in filter. Nikon has a built-in filter that's on there. So if anything does hit that front element, it's going to hit the filter rather than the front element. Now, in some cases, that front element, if it gets damaged, Nikon can replace it. With my 800 millimeter, if anything happens, the whole lens goes to Japan. Can't be dealt with here in the States. That'd be a big problem. That would put me out of business, okay? Now, other lenses, and back to the 105-14 again, all the lenses that have a filter thread on them, I have a Nikon NC. NC standing for, what's it stand for? I forget. Hello, brain fart. Anyway, it has, it's not a skylight, it's not a 81A, it's got no color caster at all. It's just clear glass. And I actually change those filters once a year. Now, first of all, people say, hey, John, most people say, hey, why do you have a filter on there? You spent, 2K on a lens. Aren't you killing that lens quality putting that filter on there? It is possible, and technically it probably is. Is it perceivable? I don't know. The first and foremost, my gauge whether it's a problem is making that 24 by 30 print, which I talk about so much. The other thing is if all of a sudden I had an editor go, hey, I'm not going to buy your picture because I can tell you use a filter, I would probably stop using filters. But I've never had an editor say that, so I don't worry about it. More importantly, though, I have had many, many, many occasions for myself, and I've seen with other photographers where something has happened to the front element. The lens is on a camera body on your shoulder, and you're walking through a doorway, and it hits a door jamb, and it nails the filter. Which, if it wasn't there, it would have nailed your front element. I have seen rocks and other things hit the front element from a car speeding up, doing a car shoot. Rocks hit, of course it hurts you, but we don't care about ourselves, just our gear. The filter took the impact, not the lens. And the one thing that, for me, that was a biggie, I was shooting with the 80-400. I was doing an air-to-air shoot. And it's just aviation, it's an oily world. And I took my lens and I stuck it like this on the counter, and it was there, and I was, uploading cards and stuff. I went to go back and clean my gear, and I took it up, and there's a ring of oil from the aircraft on the counter below that lens. And it all had coated onto that front filter, which I was totally unaware of. I was totally absorbed in the air-to-air shoot. So if I didn't have that filter on that oil would have gotten into the 8400. The lens would have been toast. So yeah, technically, maybe possible, yes, it could affect optical quality. Since I have a 28 by 18 foot print with taken with a lens with a filter on it, I just personally never worry about it. I rather protect my investment. I worked really hard to buy that gear, so that's kind of important to me. All right. Pierre, don't you think the Nikon 24mm f1.4G is an underrated lens? It's very sharp, though very light, and thus, yes, the 2418 is a great lens. The 2414 is spectacular, though. I love that lens. Yeah, it costs a whole lot more, and it gets a whole lot more attention. But there's a number of slower lenses, 1.4, 1.8, really not much slower, out there that people don't think about, in part because we are so wrapped up with perceptions, and that status. I wrote about that a couple weeks ago on the blog, and 2414 is a great lens. There's a number of others that are that way. And there's some other lenses that are incredibly spectacular, which don't get totally unnoticed as well, like the 28 1.4. That's a relatively new lens, spectacular lens that no one talks about. Love that. So that's a great point. David, had a day you're shooting with you at the Palm Coast Workshop. Well, thanks, David. Orlando Wetlands was great. I learned a lot that day. By the way, I was a guy who came over packed with big mineshaft backpack. Oh, okay. Hope that wasn't a problem for you, because it wasn't for me, because it was on your back, not mine. But as you saw for me, I kind of just go out with just that one body. But as long as you're cool. Because I don't know how you Floridians deal with all that heat and that humidity. If I had a backpack on my back, you would have carried me out. I would... But thanks for coming. That was a great day. Those Sandhill cranes, those were cool, weren't they? Lasir. Spencer, buddy, how you doing? Good to see ya. Well, you can see me, but good to see your words. Chilly, eh? Yeah. It's cold here in where I'm at as well. It's getting to get down into the high 20s tonight, and it was 10 when I left the house this morning. Henry. Do I ever shoot with manual focus lenses? As in, they have no autofocus capability. I don't anymore. All the lenses I have an autofocus capability. Do I shoot with those when I manually focus? I do all the time. Talked about that a few times on the chat here. It's manual focusing probably about 40% of the time. Pierre, when you use your D850, do you use electronic shutter? If so, which situations? The electronic shutter on the D850, that's really cool. Now, when you do time lapse, some of those things, yeah, the silent shutter is working, which at first I thought I broke the camera because I forgot I had it engaged, and it's clicking away, but I couldn't hear a shutter. That's really was kind of bizarre. But by design, do I actually just go and turn it on to shoot something? I don't. But whenever you have that, I have it set up, and my settings are on the website. Whenever I have it set up and I use the LCD for shooting, especially video, or stills, whenever that's active, the silent shutter is working. Well, I'm glad you like Podcast 70, Dennis. Do you have any other ideas on who or where to share photos? I shoot AVs and still life. Give me an honest look. Well, so Dennis, here's what I kind of recommend to a lot of people. And first of all, you got to have some capital, because what I'm going to suggest is to everybody is to go and find that local morning hangout, that coffee shop, that breakfast shop, and then approach them and see if you can hang for free on their walls your prints. Not putting a tag says by so and so, blah blah blah, subject and X amount of price. I'm going to say don't put anything up, not your name, nothing. Put the prints up, and then sit in the corner, enjoy your pancakes if that happens to be what you might like. Or if you're in Florida, we got a new place that has $1 million bacon. Have some of that, and then just watch people as they look at your images. You'll know real quick which ones are working, which ones are not. I've done that, and it is a really eye-opener to see how people react to those photographs. And then if you have the ability, do that in at least 3 places. That's what I would recommend, what I've done. It's really educational. Hope that helps. Am I still using the Zanelli? Heck, Dan, yeah. The Zanelli goes with me everywhere. I've got it now. That carbon fiber, that really saves the weight. It's really sturdy. Yeah, I know it's a little bit expensive, and I don't know a way around that, but the stability and the lightweight just rocks for me. I love it. Where did your tripod pad come from? I'd like to purchase one of it. Well, it came from me. We. You guys should understand that the we is always going to be Sharon, my wife, and I, who's just sitting right there right now, making sure I look okay, hair, makeup, that stuff. Anyway, we, for a long time, we made the MP1 375 photo packs. And then we had a line of accessories, which included the tripod pad, which we don't make. We haven't done it for quite a while. And I have no idea where you can find one anymore. But that was where the one you see that I came from. I'm getting a funny look from my wife. If it was me, I would give my wife a phone call. She does miracles things, and she might have them stashed away still. I don't know. So call Sharon at the office, okay? But don't tell anybody. Let's see her. I guess it's Massagey 99 on the Rucker Dry Box. Hey, your wife bought you an ADL. Isn't that a cool case? Oh, I love that thing. So when I got back from Florida, and like I said, I had 36 hours, first thing I did, even though I live in a dry environment, I was real quick. I just put everything in that Rucker, okay? Let it sat there. And then this morning, it was this morning, time flies, took it out, cleaned it, packed it, brought it with me. It does a great job. I really like that. Wish it were around back in the days of film and manual lenses. Trivia, manual lenses back in the days, a lot of times they were put together with a organic glue. Those elements were glued together, and the lubricant was made from whale oil. And all of that biomass in there would cause fungus to grow. If any moisture got in there, the Rucker would have saved that. It would have been cool. What do I think about SnapBridge? As in the iPhone thingy? Not much. Now, I do like the idea. So for those who don't know what Pierre is asking about, the D850 and some other camera bodies have the ability to go Bluetooth and be turned on in the sense that they're active. So say you're flying on a plane, okay, and it's up in the overhead. You could, with this, download your images and work on them. Now, for myself, I have a hard enough time just looking at the chat without reading glasses. So working on images here, it's not really a viable process for me. So while I think it's a great concept, for me personally, it's not really a workable solution. Doug, do I still shoot with any PCE lenses? You know, I used to have them all, and I have none at the moment. Now, I have a real hankering for the 19 TS. I mean, and I have a substantial need for it. I have to decide, though, if I'm going to put out the 3K to put in the locker. It's a lens that I can't borrow or rent, so I'm going to have to do something about it. But that 24 PCE, I swear to Pete, still the sharpest lens I ever shot with. Love that thing. Just did a great job. All right. So I'm curious if you guys could live the chat. How many of you actually have lenses with no filters on them as you shoot with no filter that you screwed on? I'd be curious how many of you do that. John, have I used McFun Luminar? If so, what do you think about it? John, there's a bunch of stuff on the website about it, including my own recipes. So it's no longer called McFun. It's Skylum. They changed the company name because McFun was definitely not hard enough for you to remember. You got to use Skylum now. Anyway, and Luminar, yeah, you know, there are certain times where you can either do 10, 12 layers in Photoshop to finish an image, or click in a plugin and do it with one click. So with Nick, nobody knows what's going on with Nick. I know they've been reacquired, but they haven't been re-put out there. And with Nick not working on a lot of machines now, that's not really an option. So I went to Luminar. Luminar has some aspects that are very cool. Some things which I really just can't stand about it. For example, I have a bunch of presets, as they call it, that I've made. Posting them for people to grab and use, it just isn't doable. There's no way of just simply importing my export into your system. It doesn't. I've tried it with people in person, and it's been like hand-to-hand combat, especially going from into a Windows machine. So that's just, I don't like that at all. But otherwise, it does a very good job. You'll see many posts on the web and images that I've used Luminar. Let's see here. Hey, well, Breakthrough. Breakthrough does a great job. I use their 6X personally. Spencer, you have the Nikon NC or UV field. Okay, cool. Richard, you only have it on one. Wow. Tom, hey Tom, good to hear from you. See you. Hey, that LED light panel, boy, it rocks. Just to throw it out again to you. The Seer. Anyway, I take the filters off when I'm shooting pyro fireworks. Oh, I can see why. Yeah, you have a lot of possible ghosting and flaring. So yeah, that makes good sense. I could see that. As long as you're not too close and worry about some of that stuff hitting the front element. But yeah, that makes sense. That would be kind of a ghosting nightmare. Okay. You never use filters. Okay, that's cool. Good Dog is on the ground, but when I'm on the skid, I pay attention to the sun. Let's just stop shooting. Okay, Good Dog. That makes sense. I can see what you're doing. And you make a point. If you're shooting air to air, most of the time you're going to take that shade off. There's nothing else. You don't want it grabbing air, causing vibration. So yeah. Dave, you shared with me shamed me into thinking about getting a clear filter for my 200-500, 95 millimeters. Yikes. Well, yeah, the filter might cost a lot, but think what happens if that lens gets damaged. You have to replace it. At least that's what I think about all the time. But more importantly, what happens when you don't have that lens and you can't shoot? Physically you're out of business. That thing that killed me. David, on all my glass, very cool. Doug, okay. If you don't want to use them, that's cool. I have no problem with that. So let's see here. Pierre. Um, do you systematically use two cards when you take pictures in case one fails? No, I don't have two cards in case one fails. I've never had a card failure issue. I do have two cards loaded in all the cameras, and the primary is the number one, with two being an overflow, and then number two is always partitioned off, and that's where the video goes. It's quicker and easier for me to upload and do things at night, having those slots categorized that way. Michael, don't use any for the cut sharpness too much. Michael, really, the cut sharpness too much? Hey, hate to tell you, I've never seen it, but your lens. All right. Let's see here. Where do you think Nikon will improve? Where do you think Nikon will improve on the D5, on an upcoming D5S? There's a D5S? Oh, I haven't heard about no D5S. I haven't signed any NDA for a D5S. So, what D5S are you talking about? Now, when it comes to improvements, you know, here's the thing. I'm not the guy who comes up with the ideas with the improvements. That's just not my wheelhouse. Once you come up with the ideas, I can sure tell you if I think it's going to work, and I can test the crap out of it to tell you it will work. But boy, I come up with the ideas. That's those young kids now who know all that math and glass and electronic stuff. I'm an old fart. I just know how to use it, not invent it. So I don't know. Jim, I did use filters, but notice I get better images without. I shoot mostly without. I must have used subpar filters. I don't know, Jim. You know, for what it's worth, I've had a number of people who have gone shooting with me who have said, you know, filters make my images less sharp. And I've taken my filter off my lens and put it on their camera, and we've shot. And you know what? They didn't see a change in sharpness. So I don't know what the story is. All I can tell you is for 40 years I've had filters on my lenses, and I've never had anybody complain about sharpness. In fact, I just did a class for Kelby 1 on sharpness because of my reputation for sharp images. So your photography, you've got to make the call. Let's see here. Well, the clock is ticking down, I see. And I actually have to run because I'm supposed to be at another function. So I have to do my hair and put on my lips and do all that kind of stuff. And go over there and talk nicely to people. I know that's kind of hard sometimes because I really like being blunt because it's just so much faster and efficient. But, hey, what can I say? I appreciate you all tuning in and coming around and talking and contributing. That's great. I hope you have a really great next couple of weeks. The next broadcast will be in 2 weeks. And I do appreciate you coming in. So thanks so much. Have a great one, guys. See you, hopefully, behind the